And I am here to welcome you to the Thrive series. My name is Kaya Verich, and I'm so excited to be here tonight to welcome you. If you have attended the program before, welcome back. And if you are new to this series, we are so happy to have you here. We had a really great session last week on nutrition, and I'm really excited to be here tonight for session 2. Just a little bit of background. If you are new to the Thrive series, this is a collaboration between mHealth Fairview and the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota. And it is our intention to bring educational programming to anyone who has experienced a cancer diagnosis around the concept of cancer survivorship. Tonight, we will be hearing from Kathy Skinner, a cancer exercise specialist. Kathy will explain why physical movement and exercise are so important for cancer survivors and for those patients living with cancer. She will also give us some really great ideas on exercises that you can do right at home. And I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. Kathy, take it away.
Well, thank you, Kaya, and welcome to everyone. So glad you could be here tonight. My name is Kathy Skinner, and I'm a certified cancer exercise specialist. And I got into this field because my own father was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and sadly he died over 20 years ago. But he was my inspiration to start working in the cancer community. And as a cancer exercise specialist, that means I'm trained to understand the cancer diagnosis, physical activity that's based on research and movement, looking at chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, implications for how that impacts the body, the long-term and the short-term implications for cancer itself and those treatments on the body, and then based on a research protocol, how to get your body back through strength training exercises. So tonight, we're going to go through the agenda. And that's Amna, thank you. So we're going to look at the benefits of physical activity. And if I were to ask you what those were, I bet you would get 90% of the list I'm going to share with you. And then we're also going to discuss how to start an exercise program at home. And the way we're going to do that is tonight, we're going to do an exercise program. So if you want to exercise along with me, you can. I'll be explaining some of the nuances of the exercises that are in the presentation so that when you do them at home, you'll have a flavor of what they're about. And then we'll talk briefly about how to sustain a healthy lifestyle. And it's really about creativity and giving your self permission to do a variety of things. Next slide, please. So when you think about the potential benefits of regular exercise, I think about what has cancer done to the body and what has cancer treatment done to the body, and then what can we do to improve some of those secondary side effects. So we're grateful for cancer treatments, but some of them do some damage. So we want to try to reverse some of that damage, or at least equip you to do the movements and the activities so that you can do the things that you love in your life. And really that's what exercise is about, is how to equip you to really do the things that you want to do. So we think about exercise can improve your balance. And you might think balance is, well, through your feet and through your legs, maybe your core, but really balance is in your brain and it's neuromuscular. So we're going to be doing one exercise tonight that works on balance. Also, you want to be able to build muscle mass. And cancer and cancer treatment can often diminish muscle mass because of deconditioning, maybe the treatment itself, maybe the cancer itself, maybe you're missing a body part because of surgery. So building muscle in order to create stability and strength. So again, you can do the things you love. Some treatments have heart issues. And so to build your cardiovascular, to get the blood flowing. Some treatments create bone health issues, and many of the exercises we're doing tonight directly bring value to building bone health. So then building blood flow, circulation, and then not only what does exercise do for the body, but what does it do for the spirit? And addressing self-esteem, making you feel good in your skin, helping you manage anxiety, maybe depression by bringing in endorphins and other antidepressant feelings and sensations. If you like to exercise with other people, you can build a social life around it, maybe having a walking buddy or a Zumba buddy. Fatigue during and after cancer treatment is a big part of the cancer experience. And counterintuitively, decades and decades ago, doctors used to say, oh, you're in cancer, you should just rest. But now doctors are saying, you should move, even just walk or stretch a little bit, because counterintuitively, you think fatigue, you should rest, but really fatigue means move a little bit and it'll raise your energy. And then the issue of weight maintenance. Some people want to lose weight or maintain a healthy body composition. Some people want to gain weight depending on their cancer diagnosis. And then there's significant research that shows that physical activity has a correlation, not a guarantee, but a correlation to reducing secondary cancer. And so if you want to look into that, Jeffrey Meyerhart out of Harvard Medical School did a study on the impact of physical activity and colon cancer recurrence. So he's got some really good research. Also, Michelle Holmes, also of Harvard, did something called the Nurses Study, and they looked at the correlation between physical activity, nutrition, and cancer recurrence. And then most of the work that I've been doing as a cancer exercise specialist for the last 14 years is based on foundational research by a woman named Catherine Schmitz. And I call her the queen of cancer exercise. She did the foundational research around the benefits of exercise. And she also has done foundational study around exercise and lymphedema, which we'll speak about briefly as well. Next slide. So we have to be clear that getting started in a physical activity program, whether you've had cancer or not, you should speak to your physician about getting clearance to move forward and see if there's any concerns. One issue post-cancer treatment is the ability to regulate your temperature. So you want to work on not overheating. So loose clothing, water nearby, a towel maybe to wipe off some sweat, and not to push yourself to overheat. Having the water close by to maintain your hydration. And then with COVID, we really have to think, is it worth going to a public gym to do physical activity, or can you create a workout space in your home or in your neighborhood or a local park? Can you do outside activities in the snow? I'm not a native Minnesotan, and last winter, I learned how to cross-country ski because I had to get out of my house. So think about where can you exercise that's beneficial. Another concern is, do you have low blood cell counts? Does that make you at risk for infection, maybe low platelets, and maybe at risk for fainting? So when it comes to energy and fatigue, what is your best time of day? Maybe you'll wake up in the morning and you've got the best energy, so that's the time you should exercise. Maybe you're more of an afternoon or evening person, and that would be a great window of time. And if you're really limited with fatigue, then one suggestion I've often proposed to people is maybe 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening, and that's good. Maybe break it up. So really try to read your body and read your energy level and see what fits you. And then when you think about exercise, maybe it's stretching. You know, it's not Jillian Michaels or, doing some ninja warrior crazy stuff. Exercise is movement. It's moving the body, it's stretching the muscles, it's strengthening the bones, it's opening the ligaments. All those things count. So giving yourself permission to do something maybe less rigorous on a day when you don't have as much energy. And then if you have metastatic disease, or if you've had cancer in your bones, you are at greater risk for bone fractures. So tonight, the exercises we'll be doing can be modified so that you're safe. So for example, you can be seated in a chair. We want to make sure you work on a clean, safe, flat surface, so there's no risk of falling or tripping. And that leads into the next place of make sure that you're safe. And then if you have neuropathy in your hands or your feet, there's extra caution around balance, and also making sure that you don't drop any hand weights or whatever you're using in your hands for resistance, so that you have some tactile cues and other ways, just so that you're safe from falling and safe from dropping things. Next slide. So I do want to speak briefly that if you do have lymphedema, Katie Schmitz did research on physical activity for lymphedema. It's called the PALS trial, PALS. And what she discovered is that you can do strength training and not necessarily trigger your lymphedema, but she did an exercise protocol that's very smart. And what it is starting with weights, hand weights, and then moving very slowly and incrementally so not to trigger the lymphedema. So for example, let's say you lifted weights Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you're just getting started. So Katie's protocol would say that you move 1 pound, like you're doing bicep curls on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And at the end of the week, if you don't have any lymphedema triggers, the following week, lift 2 pounds, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And what over slow progressive increase of weight, not to trigger lymphedema. And the extra benefits are building muscle mass, improving sleep, improving digestion, improving self-awareness and self-image. And this slide also illustrates a recommendation to wear a compression garment and a gauntlet. And there are many places, and I'm sure your team here at the University of Minnesota and Fairview can make recommendations on great places to get these lymphedema garments. And I do believe they are covered by insurance. Next slide. So part of exercise is a bit of a self-assessment. What's going to help you be consistent, and what is your preference and why? Because all about physical activity is sticking with it and being consistent. So are you an individual exerciser? Will you get out of bed in the morning and hit the sidewalk or hit the treadmill? Or do you prefer to exercise in a group? And that's personal preferences, and it's all good. It all counts. Next slide. So here's where we're going to jump into our exercise protocol. And if you want to jump in with me, you only need a couple things: a chair, a resistance band, and some kind of hand weights. And I cheat and I use cans of bubbly water. So here we go. We're going to start with these exercises, and I'm going to walk through each one and give you a sense of maybe some of the nuances. And then you'll have this slide deck with you, and you can revisit them anytime you want and build your workout off of there. So the first exercise we're going to do is a seated twist. So I invite you, you're going to sit at the front edge of your chair, sit nice and tall, and then you're going to twist to one side. You can even grab the chair and do a gentle tug, and you're going to be breathing and looking over that shoulder. And what you're trying to do is open up the muscles through the side of the body. And then you can twist to the other side. Now, one thing that people tend to do that I'd like you to stay away from in this exercise is tend to kind of grip through the shoulders and tight through the body. This is actually a breathing and opening exercise. So to twist to one side, you're actually trying to open and not clench up and get tight. Next slide, please. So this is a great exercise because you have to get on the floor and then you have to get up. So that's a skill you don't want to lose, especially as we age. So this is a hip bridge, and what we're going to do is address muscles in the back of the legs, your hamstrings and your glutes, your back side. And it's also a lovely exercise for moving through the spine. So you're going to come to the floor, and if you have a resistance band, you can tie it around your legs, because that'll give a little bit of additional stimulation in terms of pushing the legs out. Now, if you don't have a band, you don't need one, but you can come all the way to the ground, and hopefully you can still see me. But you're going to press your hips up to the sky, and then you're going to melt your spine bone by bone all the way down till the hips settle down. And then you're going to press your hips up. And if you're not feeling your hamstrings and your glutes, wiggle your toes. Because what happens is the weight goes in the heels, the muscles behind the legs activate, and all of a sudden, you're going to feel it. So press down and then lift up. And what I'm trying to do is roll through my spine and then roll down through my spine. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy during the Q&A to address that. Next slide, please. So here's an exercise that if you feel like you need to be in a chair, it works great. You're going to take your resistance band, wrap it around your back like a shawl. Again, you're going to sit in the front edge of your chair, nice and tall, and then you're going to press the band away like you're doing a push-up in the air, and then bend the elbows wide. And press and bend the elbows wide. So this is working muscles in the pecs, in the chest. It's also working muscles through the arms, and you'll find that you actually have to stabilize in your core as well. So if you want a little more challenge, you can stand, slight bend in the knees, belly button to spine, press the arms out, bend the elbows wide, press it out, bend wide. And again, let's stay out of the shoulders, try to keep them down, because that'll help activate your other muscles. Next slide, please. So the next exercise is a chair squat. Squats can be challenging. People might have issues with knees, might have issues with hips, but if you can master the squat, it's a great exercise for putting load and strain, good strain on the hips to build those bones. So the chair is here for safety. If you want to sit all the way down in your squat, you can. If you don't need to sit down, you can just hover right over this chair itself. But you're going to start with parallel feet. You're going to tap your toes, weight are in the heels, and then you're going to press your hips back like you're skiing down a hill. So when I was teaching this class face-to-face to people, I used to say, ski down the hill like Lindsey Vonn, our Minnesota native. So you're going to press those hips back, and then you're going to squeeze your hamstrings, squeeze your glutes, and stand tall. Press the hips back and stand tall. Notice that I'm keeping my eyes lifted, my chest lifted, so I'm not rolling or folding in the body. I'm using my arms to counterbalance my hips. So you press back. Now, one of the helpful cues that I have at the end of this particular exercise, it's a modification, is if you're feeling like your knees are not happy, you take your toes and you turn them out ever so slightly. Perhaps you can see better here. So you turn your toes out ever so slightly in a modest V. And for some people, they feel like their knees track better in their squat. So it's not like a ballet, plie, not very wide, just a very small variation. The other trick is to make sure you have weight in the heels. And the reason you know you have weight in the heels is because you tap your toes. So again, you press those hips back and then squeeze and stand tall. So that's the chair squat. Next slide, please. So you'll start to see the method of my madness in that exercises are alternating between upper body and lower body, upper body and lower body. This enables different muscle groups to take a break, and then you work another part of the body. So this is a great exercise for building stability in the shoulder and also working the bones around the upper back. So you take the band, and you can stand on 1 or 2 feet can stand on the band, and this is a shoulder raise front. So what that means is it's like it sounds, slight bend in the knees, belly button to spine, and you're going to raise the band to just shoulder height. Now, maybe you had a mastectomy, maybe on one side, but the other side you didn't have surgery or reconstruction. So one option is the side that did not receive surgery. You could do something challenging like a band. The side that was surgically altered, you can even just do the arm. Keep it modest until you build strength in that side of the body. So shoulder raise, you're going to raise for 1, 2, 3, lower 2, 3. And then you would simply switch arms and raise and lower. Another variation of this is shoulder raise to the side. So just the same, instead of raising front, you raise to the side. Each of the exercises should be have complete 10 to 12 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions with 2 sets. And we can talk more about the protocol in terms of repetitions in the Q&A if you have questions there. Next slide. So here's another great lower body exercise that's very important in building stability, balance, and also loading the hips to build bones. So lunges can be challenging. And so I offer that if you have balance issues, that you could hang on to a chair or a countertop, something to help you while you're learning the motor pattern. So forward lunge is you step forward, lower the back knee, and then stand up tall and come together. Step forward, and I'm putting weight through that heel, bring the foot down, lower the knee, and then stand tall and come together. Notice that I'm keeping my posture tall. I'm trying not to bend at the waist, and I'm trying to do all lower body. So touch down, knee, and press. And you can do a bunch of repetitions on one leg and then go to the other leg. Or if you wish, you can alternate right, alternate left, alternate right, alternate left. And again, if you feel like you have concerns about balance, or you want to get the motor pattern right and you're just getting started, feel free to hang on to a chair. And you can do the same thing, but just with a little bit of a security to hang on. Next exercise, please. So here we're working a large muscle group in the upper back. This is called the standing upright row. So you take the band and thread it through one or two of your feet. And the reason it's a row is it's like rowing a boat. So we're not pulling up around the ears, but we're actually pulling back. So opening up the chest, imagine you were sitting in a rowboat and you're pulling the oars from the front to the back and moving the water like you're rowing. When I'm working with people doing this exercise, I often come and I just gently touch their shoulder blades, the middle of their back, so they squeeze those upper back muscles so they're getting the right ones. Now, if you want a variation, maybe that's too challenging standing, you can do the same exercise seated, and you'll even get to see how the row makes even more sense from this position. But from here, you pull back. Again, it's squeezing the blades, shoulder blades in the upper back. I'm keeping my shoulders down. My chest is lifted. My eyes are lifted. And again, we're looking for 2 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions each. Next exercise, please. Now, I really like this exercise. People think, well, it's not that hard. And the truth of the matter is, you're right, it's not that hard. But if you have trouble doing squats, if you have trouble getting up and down off the floor and can't do the hip bridges that we did earlier, rear leg raises are a great alternative because it's still getting at the same muscles, but it takes away some of the issues maybe you have with your knees or your hips or other things like that. So lightly place your hands on the back of a chair or a counter. You're going to be standing nice and tall. And then you're going to squeeze the back of your leg so that you get your glute and your hamstrings to activate. And you can stand nice and tall. Now, one of the cues I have in the written instructions is to not rotate the leg out. So maybe you grew up doing ballet or some kind of dance so that you know that when you rotate that foot out, you're getting a different part of the muscle. And what I'm advocating is that you keep the hips square, keep the knee facing the floor, the top of the foot facing the floor, and you really get that glute and the hamstring. And you can do 5 or 10 rear leg raises on one side, and then you can do 5 or 10 raises on the other side. And again, it's key is posture so that we're not doing tilting, but really keeping the body tall and reaching that rear leg back. Great, next exercise. Okay, so I had promised an exercise where your brain was gonna get a lot of work. So here it is, it's bicep curls with balance. Now, bicep curls are done often in many workouts across the country, across the world. It's a major muscle group in the arm. We use our biceps every day. And so you'll either need hand weights, or what I like to do when I'm just getting started is using cans or bottles of water. So here's the part that works your brain. Slight bend in both knees and then lift one foot and balance. Now, and then we're going to balance and move the hands at the same time. It won't be surprising if you lose your balance. And what do? You just touch down and then bring that foot right back up. And if you're unable to balance, you can literally just have the ball of the foot down, and that's a great place to start, because that does require a precursor to balancing on just one foot. So a lot's going on here. Now you can see why it's an exercise for your brain. And so you're moving the weights with your arms. One of the other cues I have is in your hands, try not to squeeze the weight. We don't want the energy going into the hands, but we want the energy into the bicep muscle. So relaxed grip on the weights. Move the weights from low to high and balance on one foot. And so maybe the first set of 10 or 12 repetitions, you stand on one foot. And then the second set, there you go, then you stand on the other foot and move the weight. And you'll find one foot or one leg is better at balancing than the other. And that's completely normal. So next slide, please. As we age and as we worry about balance, we actually lose ankle flexion, the ability to move well through our ankles. So I really like this very simple exercise because it builds flexibility and mobility in the ankle, which translates to us having better balance. And when the snow starts to fly and the ice comes, we want our balance to be as good as possible. So here's what we do. With this one, again, just holding on lightly to the back of a chair or countertop, you're going to raise your toes so your weight is in your heels. Then you're going to rock forward and go all the way up to the balls of your feet. And if you grew up dancing or doing ballet, think about releve, right? And so then rock back, lift the feet, weight in the heels, and then rock forward, balls of the feet, and lift and come nice and tall. You'll feel those calf muscles squeeze, and rock back and lift. Now there's a way to progress this. If you're like, Kathy, I don't need to hold on, that's great. Same thing, go up to releve, balls of your feet, go back, lift those toes, which is the hard part, and then up. So all these exercises, you can make them harder by standing or balancing on one foot, or easier, you can regress them and be seated or hang on to something for balance. Next exercise. Okay, so here we go. This is working the chest and the arms and creating mobility in the shoulder. This is called the straight arm pull down. So you take your resistance band and you kind of have to gauge what's the best distance of your hands to give you the most resistance. So you're going to pull across the chest and then raise up and then pull down and wide across the chest and lift and wide and lift. If you want to make it harder, you can stand and lift and lift. Great. Next slide, please. So that's an exercise protocol that I really like. I designed one for tonight that would give you a little bit of everything, something to work your core, work balance, work major muscle groups, minor muscle groups, also work your brain, and also give you something that you could do in a modest amount of time. So if you were to do each of those exercises and do 2 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions, you could probably get the whole thing done in like 20 minutes. And if you did that twice a week, 3 times a week, you would be in great shape. And when I say 2 or 3 times a week, it's important to know that you actually need rest days in between your strength days. So if you're gonna do strength training, let's say Monday, then the next soonest day you should do it is Wednesday. Or if you're gonna go on Tuesday, then you should go on Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. If you can get 3 days in, that's great. Some people might feel like 20 minutes is too much exercise time, you know what? You can take half those exercises and just do 10 minutes. And if you did 10 minutes one day, you could do 10 minutes then another day. And so feel like you can break it up and work it any way you want. And so that's one of the strategies for creating a healthy lifestyle, because physical activity and movement has to be fun. And in the sense that you can be creative with your activities. Maybe you can work out so that you can go hiking, or you can do strength training so that you can go cross-country skiing, or you have a vision to travel somewhere and be able to walk 8 hours a day because you want to tour Italy, or you want to chase your grandkids, something that your physical activity links to your priorities. The other thing is to make exercise as convenient as possible. So for me, I have my stability ball, I have my weights, I have everything in my home, and I have to trip over them so that I won't miss it and I won't miss a day. Also, physical activity really needs to come to a place where it's just part of your daily routine. It's like brushing your teeth or watching your favorite show, and just building it into real life. And as I described the lymphedema protocol that Katie Schmitz came up with, slow, gradual progress is really the best way to be safe, effective, and that leads to long-term adherence. Knowing that maybe sometimes you might have a minor injury, you might have a cold, something that is going to require you to modify your physical activity. Even the weather is going to modify your activity. The other day it was raining cats and dogs, so I couldn't go ride my bike. I said, well, guess I'm not riding my bike today. The other thing is giving ourselves permission to know that we're going to backslide, that we're going to fall off the routine, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can have a day or a week where we just don't follow through with the goals that we have set for ourselves, but then we can pick up the next week. It's okay. We're going to backslide. We're going to have barriers to adherence, but we can make changes anyway. And maybe that requires a buddy, maybe a friend to hold you accountable, to encourage you to meet for a walk. I knew one cancer survivor, and she had a walking group, and they met at 6 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday for years. And they knew that if their buddy wasn't there, they weren't going to roll out of bed. But that was the way for them to build community and build consistency. And then maybe you need a professional to come into your life. There are cancer exercise specialists like myself. I'm available in the Twin Cities. I know there's others in Eden Prairie and Edina. And you can look for someone who's a cancer exercise specialist if you have cancer specific concerns. And then we can build workouts for you that can help. Vacation workouts, I wanted to put that in there because I didn't want you to think that I'm on vacation, I don't have to do anything. No, that's actually a great idea. It's because you're disrupting your patterns of life, and you're going to go walking on a beach or hiking in the mountains or walking through New York City, whatever your vacation spot is. It doesn't have to be completely couch potato. You can be active. The other ideas are to cross train and change the routine, utilize variety. And here in Minnesota, we don't have a choice. I mean, I can't ride my bike year round. I can't cross country ski year round. And because of COVID, we couldn't go to gyms year round. So our state actually forces us to be creative and change our routines. Another piece of being adherent and committed is seeing yourself do the work, or seeing yourself feel good after a workout. So visualizing self-positive talk, moving forward in that way. Another exercise client I had for many years described physical activity and exercise as a blessed distraction. She had stage 4 cancer, but she still loved coming to the Pilates studio, and she felt like it was a time for her mind and her body to take a break from thinking about her health status. So I always think of Linda, and she described distraction as a gift, and I appreciate that. The other thing is to redefine exercise. All activity counts. If you rake your leaves or mop your floor or wash your car or rearrange the bookshelf. That all counts. That's physical activity. Some people need to make a contract with themselves or others and then have it posted on their laptop or their bulletin board. And some people like to chart their progress and establish rewards. I used to play a game with myself when I could go to a place with a treadmill, and I would only let myself watch my favorite show on Netflix when I was on the treadmill. Otherwise, I couldn't watch it. So it was an incentive to go and kind of debrief my mind and then also get some movement in there. And then make sure your activity matches your goals. So if you want to do a long swim, if you want to do a triathlon, if you want to go to Amsterdam, if you want to travel in Arizona, make sure that the things that you're doing are building toward those things that you'll find joy and the things that you love, because you really want your physical activity to reflect your quality of life values. And if you have cancer, your quality of life values can easily change over time. And we have to be able to give ourselves permission to adapt to our health status, use our energy where we want and when we have it, and that the values that we hold dear might not be exactly what others have for us, but you know what? Life is short and you got to own your stuff. And I encourage you to reflect, make sure that your activity really reflects your quality of life values. Next slide. So tonight, in very fast order, we went through the benefits of physical activity. I shared a workout for you that you can do at home with almost no equipment. And then we discussed briefly how to sustain a healthy lifestyle. And I'm really looking forward to this next part of the evening where we can have a discussion and do Q&A. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I feel like I learned a ton, and I feel great now that I've kind of gotten up and got to move a little bit. So
Good.
I hope more of you on the call tonight had a chance to get up and follow along and kind of try out some of those moves. And if not, again, this will be recorded. So definitely come back to the website and find the recording so that you can access the slides and do it all again on your own. Before we move along to some questions, and thank you to folks submitting those, feel free to start typing your questions in, or in just a moment, we'll have an opportunity you can unmute yourself and verbalize a question. But before we get there, I wanted to just give a quick reminder that we will be emailing out a survey tonight. Don't forget to do that survey. You will have a chance to win a swag bag full of all new goodies, and somebody wins every week. So don't miss out on that. We really, really value the feedback that comes in, and we look at every single submission. So we want your feedback so we can continuously make this a series that you want. All right, so Kathy, looking at our Q&A, I do see some questions coming in. I want to start at the top, and you mentioned this super briefly. How would you recommend folks find a cancer exercise specialist like yourself in their area?
Sure. So there are 2 organizations in the United States that certify people to be cancer exercise specialists. One is the American College of Sports Medicine, and you can go to acsm.org and look for something called Pro Finder, and you can put in cancer exercise and based on zip code. The other option is CETI, Cancer Exercise Training Institute, has also trained people to be cancer exercise specialists. So you can go to CETI and do the same kind of thing. I don't think it's called ProFinder, but it's similar. Andrea Leonard has trained many people in cancer exercise, and she has a very strong reputation. And if you can't find someone, just call me or email me and I can help you as well. I do still do some private clients, but mostly it's been hard with COVID. It's been really hard. So try to accommodate when needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that great information. And I was jotting those down. We will send those out and make sure that those resources that Kathy is mentioning are available to everyone.
Yeah.
Where would you suggest finding this equipment? I see you have a mat behind you, you have the bands. where do you recommend finding that stuff?
Well, during COVID, you had to pretty much go to the black market because you couldn't get exercise equipment anywhere. But Amazon, and literally water bottles, jugs of sand. I mean, you can be really creative. The only thing about the resistance bands is they're different colors, which means there's different resistance levels or weights to them. And some of them are latex and some of them are not. And so if you have a latex allergy, you should be very cognizant of what you do order in that product. So yeah, online, Amazon.
Excellent. Another question that came in, this person says, I walk at least 5 to 6 times a week for about an hour. Do I need to add more variety to my exercise?
Yep. Yes, because your body is so smart. It adapts to whatever challenge you put in front of it. So my question to you then is, do you walk the same route? Probably. Can you mix it up? Granted, we live in Minnesota and it's pretty damn flat, but there are places around the cities that have hills. And so you can add hills to your workout. And you can maybe carry some hand weights to build a little more muscle mass. You'll look crazy, but it's really good. You can do side shuffles. You can walk backwards. So really, it's if you can trick your body into facing new challenges is really what you're trying to do. And as much as I'm sure it feels wonderful to be outside for an hour, 5 to 6 days a week, that's good. I don't diminish that, but think about ways to make it more challenging to your body so that you don't lose any benefits. Like I was just riding my bike this summer and then I started playing volleyball and my body was like, what? No, we don't move laterally. We don't jump. But it took me like 6 weeks to play once a week to get my body to kind of go, it's okay. My knees were talking back a lot, but I kind of got over a threshold where I was like, oh, I can play again. And it's so fun. So think a long answer to a simple question. The answer is yes, mix it up.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's great anecdotes and really helps me kind of imagine, okay, what is in my life that I could, easily incorporate some different activities. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I do see another question here. How can I deal with foot pain from neuropathy with exercise? Do you have any tips?
It's really, really hard. It's really hard. And we need a physician on here I can't dispense medical advice, and this might not be 100% accurate, but what I do recall from neuropathy is when neuropathy sets in and then treatment ends, it's kind of like the 6 to 12 months as if it'll get resolved or not. You can ask your medical professional about that. So if you're past that 12-month mark and you still have neuropathy and you have pain, it's a challenge. One thing I would offer is, do you feel comfortable riding a bike? Because that might be less painful, less weight bearing on your feet. The other thing is, do you feel comfortable swimming? Because that's another way to not put weight on your feet. And even if you don't feel comfortable swimming, do you have access to a pool? Because you can do amazing walking and strengthening by walking in water that's like chest height. So then you get the resistance of the water, but not the pain of the neuropathy. And then you also get the compression of the water to impact your lymphatic system. So I'm a big fan of water, but I know not everyone feels comfortable or has access. So it's very hard, number one. And number two, it's going to be requiring more creativity or seated exercises.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought about getting in the pool. That's wonderful advice. Another couple questions coming in. So the first one says, I've heard conflicting advice about exercising with lymphedema. Is it okay to use heavier weights, like 10 pounds or so, or to stick to very light 1 to 2 pound weights?
Both. So earlier in the presentation, I had described Katie Schmidt's exercise protocol based on research, that said slow progression of weight over time, as long as it doesn't trigger lymphedema. And I'll explain it again. So let's say you're getting started, you're going to lift weights on Monday, let's say Monday, Wednesday. I'll just give you 2 days. So the Monday you lift weights, and say you have upper extremity lymphedema. So we have to qualify that upper body lymphedema, maybe in just one arm. So you're going to lift weights with your hands, and you're going to start with 1 pound. And you'll lift on Monday, and then you'll lift on Wednesday. And if you don't have any lymphedema triggers, then the following week, you can literally put 2 pounds in your hands. And you can do biceps, you can do shoulders, you can do triceps. And if you don't have a lymphedema trigger, the week after that, you can go to 3 pounds. So it sounds like this person is also doing research, which is great. And so you can look at Katie Schmidt's protocol, PALS trial, PALS, physical activity for lymphedema, and she'll describe this slow progression of weights added. Then there was subsequent research after that asked the exact same question: how heavy can somebody with lymphedema go? And if you follow that slow progression and you don't have a lymphedema trigger, there's actually no upper limit. So just to be clear, I'm not saying pick up 10, 15, 20 pounds and go. I'm like, it's going to take you weeks to build up pound by pound, consistent by consistent, to get to that place to make sure you don't have any lymphedema flare up. So if there's more questions about that, the person can call me or email me and we can talk that through. But
sure. And I wonder if, just briefly, if there is a trigger, would you say then stay at the current weight, or would you say backtrack, take some time away? What advice would you have?
So that's a great question. Thanks for following up. When I've worked with people and they've had a lymphedema flare up, a couple things. One is some of them know how to do their own lymphedema massage. So do that, or go see your lymphedema specialist. Make sure they're LANA certified, LANA, because they're top of the field. And then what I do is I regress. So let's say you were lifting 8 pounds and you were humming along and doing great, and then you jumped to 10 pounds and then you had a lymphedema flare. So what I would say is then go back to 8 pounds and do that for a while, and then venture into 10 pounds. And maybe when you do 10 pounds, you don't do 2 sets. Maybe you only do 1 set. So there's ways to just kind of ease your way into it, and all modifications are acceptable.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I know that there's a lot of people asking those questions, so that's wonderful information.
Lymphedema is hard, but it's so critical for your physical well-being as a breast cancer survivor. One thing that's pretty sad, though, is there's no exercise protocol for lower body lymphedema. So if people have it in their groin or pelvis or legs, that's another one where I recommend biking or a pool. But that's a tough one. There's no strong research right now that gives us a really good direction on what to do, like when you have upper extremity lymphedema.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. And I'll let folks know too, we do still have about 10 minutes. So if you do have any more questions, feel free to keep them coming. One that I do see in the chat we haven't gotten to yet says, do you have any suggestions for exercises to improve breathing capacity for someone who had a lung biopsy and impacted their ability or capacity to breathe?
Yeah, it's going to sound funny because you would think I would say, oh, you need to run or bike or do something for building cardiovascular, but the best exercises for breathing are yoga and Pilates, because they actually teach you how to move in that part of your body. So I would really strongly recommend yoga or Pilates for improving breathing. Excellent.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that makes me think personally, I like to enjoy YouTube videos where they'll guide you through a yoga exercise, or there's different cardio ones. Is there anything like that that you would recognize as we all kind of start brainstorming Minnesota winters? How are we going to get our exercise in?
Well, I haven't. If you're a woman on this video, you might like some eye candy. So maybe a cute boy that's doing some yoga. I don't know, whatever your incentives are or whatever beautiful people motivate you too. But yeah, the amazing thing is there's so many free resources available online. I would do some research to figure out which ones are credible, and also which ones you just resonate, because there's yoga people, there's Pilates people, there's PX90 people or beach body people. And if you don't resonate with them or see yourself in their shoes, then I think there's going to be less likelihood that you'll stick with it. But if you see someone that you feel like you really connect with, it's all about being consistent. And whatever tricks or incentives you have to build into your life so that you are consistent every week, it's really going to benefit you. You're the one who's going to get the most out of it.
Awesome. That sounds great. And if anybody does have suggestions, I see in the chat, someone likes walking in the winter time. It's so beautiful.
Sure.
Good for you. I don't love being cold. I like enjoying it. That's right. That's right. One question that was sent to me previously said, are there certain areas or muscles that we should be thinking about most? For instance, the core.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but I kind of want to ask why. What's behind thinking about why would they say most? So I kind of have a question. I don't know if the person's with us tonight, but if they can elaborate.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're with us tonight. I did get an email separately.
Okay.
So if they're here, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, potentially I'll get a follow-up email and we can connect them with you.
Yeah, I mean, is there one muscle group you need to be thinking about over all others? The answer is yes, one, and it's your brain. Because your brain is going to help you with manage your mood, manage your energy, manage muscle mass, give you vision and energy for what you want to do with your life, give you hope. So I think whatever physical activity is all to feed your brain and your spirit. And so I would do whatever you need to do to work that muscle the most. Mm-hmm. And then it's back to quality of life and your goals. And so if you want to do an activity that requires better balance than what you have now, or more strength than what you have now, learning something new, like I want to learn how to play pickleball, because yes, I'm playing volleyball, but I won't be able to play forever. And so pickleball is like an old person's volleyball. Sorry for all those pickleball lovers out there. But so yes, there's progressions of things that we can add to our lives as we age or have challenges or want to learn new things.
That's excellent. Pickleball fan here.
Oh,
Rapid
yay.
sports are, yes, yes. No, I love it. I love it. I do have another question here that came to me in the chat regarding fatigue. And I know you talked about it a little bit. If somebody suffering from fatigue could only do one exercise, do you have any recommendations for that tough day on a good exercise?
I'm a big fan of getting outside. I feel like being outside any time of the year it's a distraction, a welcome distraction. It's a visualization. It's a time to breathe. I mean, I feel like I physically step out my front door and I can feel the shoulders and the stress kind of go. So if you can't get outside, then I think it would be any kind of stretching, because fatigue is going to create tension. And so any kind of movement of like stretching the arms or the neck or the back or the legs, then that gets blood flowing, and that relieves tension and cortisol and stress within the body. And I think that would be beneficial. So, and then you feel like you did something, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Well, fall is my season, so that feels very motivating. Go out, enjoy some fall air, do some stretches in the yard.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Excellent. And I know you talked a little bit about lowering recurrence risk and some of the research that's happening out there. Could you tell us a little bit more, again, about the role of exercise in recurrence?
So I'll cite again Jeffrey Meyerhart, who actually did some definitive research back in 2006. So Jeffrey Meyerhart, Katie Schmitz, Michelle Holmes, Carrie Winterstone out of Oregon Health Science University. These people are pioneers in physical activity around cancer, recurrence of disease, bone health improvements. But when I started as a cancer exercise specialist back in 2009, 2010, this was all new stuff. Now we can say it's history, and there's things building on it, right? So cancers that are driven by hormones and insulin, big ones are like breast, prostate, colon. Think about, what does exercise do? Regulates hormones and insulin. So that's how there's a biological play on the regulation. And I'm sure there's scientists on this video or excuse me, on this call or at the U that could give you more in depth. But think about cancer, what triggers and regulates cancer, and how exercise also combats that. And then I think there's a lot to be said around how you feel about yourself and how you see the world. And cancer treats everybody differently. And what can you do to empower yourself and own your own journey?
I love that. Own your own journey.
Yeah.
All right, with just 2 minutes left, I'm going to make this the last question. If any other questions come up, feel free to contact us and we'll make sure that Kathy has the opportunity to share her thoughts. But our last question tonight says, how does radiation treatment affect muscles, and is there anything we can do to keep them healthy?
Ooh, I'm
Big
not
question.
a oncology, but it kind of turns a muscle into hamburger. Yeah, it's so, again, I'm not a medical professional, so ask your oncologist for sure, or your radiation oncologist, but the skin and the tissue is damaged, but nerves and other endings can be regenerated over time, and muscle can be adapted over time. And I feel like radiation is becoming more, not conservative, but maybe more sparing. Like, I think the sites for radiation or the targeted radiation is becoming more purposeful and not just, 50 years ago, everything was like, just let's radiate everything. So along with oncotype testing, whether chemo is valid or not, radiation is becoming more focused and not so just blast everything. Again, I'm not a medical physician, I'm not a doctor, but that would be my response, that it does damage the muscle and the nerves, but I think they can be recovered over time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for being here with us and giving us your time. We are just at the end of our hour here, so we so appreciate everyone who was able to join us tonight and all of you watching the recording at a later date. So next week, we hope you join us. We're going to hear from Dr. Katie Klingberg to hear her personal story about survivorship, her life as a wife, sister, daughter, friend, and physician. So we look forward to seeing you then, and I hope everyone has a wonderful night.